Hey, what's up, everybody? I want to welcome you to another episode of the Dreamerspro Daily Recap, where we give you a recap of all of the hot topics that we covered that day. You can catch them in their long format and also catch it fully streaming for free on Apple Podcasts. This one right here is something that just came out of left field, right? Just came out of left field. Like it's just a crazy one. So let's get into it. As you guys know, Skip Bayless went out there and basically said that he will no longer be working on FS1. He made the announcement some days ago on his Twitter page. I'm going to read what he said on August the 2nd. He said, "Today was my last show on Undisputed. I'm leaving FS1. I've been planning to pursue other opportunities for several months. I had a great 8-year run with a lot of great people at Fox, but now I'm excited for what's coming up. Stay tuned." And then after that, subsequently, he posted, "Ernestine and Hazel surprised me with congratulations balloons when I returned for my last Undisputed. Can't wait for what's next. Here we go." So it's the end of an era. It is official that Skip Bayless, we will no longer see him at FS1, right? So that's the first news. Then everybody started reacting to it. A lot of people started reacting ourselves. People were kind of getting behind it and getting behind the story and talking about it and all of that. And for the most part, the general sentiment is there's no sadness out there, right? There's no sadness. A lot of people are kind of over Skip Bayless, which is crazy, right? A lot of people are over him. Like they were like, bro, enough is enough. I guess people were tired of his tactics. And one of those people that was tired of his tactics was former NFL player, former ESPN and FS1 analyst, and Cris Carter. If you guys remember Cris Carter at FS1, he used to actually do shows with Nick Wright, right? He used to be on the show with him there, and then things kind of changed around. I don't know what happened. Something happened, but I don't know the details of it. So Cris Carter used to be at FS1, but he also used to be at ESPN. And now I'm not sure if this was during the Cold Pizza days. I think it was during the time the show was called First Take. I used to watch a lot of those shows going back to 2009, 2010, 2011. That's when the show was absolutely just a classic, right? You had people that were coming on there like Rob Parker, Chris Broussard, Stephen A. Smith, Jalen Rose, various people coming on at the time. I think Ryan Clark not there, but I think he was around ESPN around that time. So there's just a lot of fantastic segments that had a lot of drama. But during that time, there was a Tim Tebow fever that basically swept across the United States, right? And Tim Tebow was a very, very polarizing guy, right? Very polarizing, because there were some people that thought, this guy can't play in terms of throwing the ball. He can't play. But he was such a decorated college football player, and because he was such a motivational guy, a lot of people thought that he could excel at a high level. And some of those people were Skip Bayless. So Skip Bayless was one of the people that were championing Tim Tebow. But Cris Carter and others, and Stephen A. Smith and others, were like, this guy he's not going to be any good in the NFL. So Cris Carter goes all the way back to ESPN then. So as he was asked about what happened with Skip Bayless, to my surprise, Cris Carter just goes absolutely ballistic on Skip, even to the point where he was like, there came a moment where he told him, I'm going to punch you in your effing face if you disrespect me again. So for those of you who didn't hear what Cris Carter had to say about his former colleague at FS1, Skip Bayless, we want to play it for you now. I want you guys to listen to every second of it because it is pure entertainment. And I'm going to come back and react to his comments. Take a listen to Cris Carter here.
So Skip Bayless is leaving his Undisputed deal. I've never watched the show. I've watched clips when it was him and he was doing his thing with Shan. I've watched a lot of it. I didn't take to it. Plenty of people did, obviously. He's been on TV for a long time. I didn't take to it because it was the screechy. I don't like it. It's like I've argued with people that like scream at me like they're in 6th grade, and it's a lot for me. So it's not that he didn't play. That doesn't, his opinions, his strong opinion. It's the screaming that like it sends, because it's screechy.
A lot of people.
What's that?
A lot of people, that type of communication,
Yeah.
the debate world.
Yeah.
And that's only been popular like the last
well
10, 12 years. That's it. 10 years.
Like Stephen A has his opinions. He's not screeching. He's making his points. He speaks well. He's funny. it doesn't look like he completely loses control of his emotionality. And when people lose control of their emotionality, I'm like, dude, I'm out. I'm gone. That's just how I feel. Okay. Mm-hmm. For whatever that's worth, who cares? Mm-hmm. But he's leaving. Mm-hmm. And then ESPN said they're not doing anything with him, I guess.
Why would they?
Well, what's your opinion?
They just signed Shannon to an extension.
Correct.
Like, so this is how ESPN does stuff. Okay, Shannon, we know you're a commodity. Come over here. This is something new. We believe you guys could have some chemistry. Stephen A. had already told us, he'd like to add you to the show in some capacity. Let's do this partial deal. Yeah. Let's do a couple days a week. Mm-hmm. Let's date. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do.
That's commitment enough. I'm going to date you only. You're going to
get
date
married,
me only.
Date.
No, we're going to date. We're going to have a good time. And Shannon overwhelmed them with his success and his following. Because Shannon comes with the following.
He's just blowing up.
So Stephen A. gets along with most every athlete. Like, so it was just a matter of who was going to be the right athlete to be in there with Stephen A. going back and forth in conversations, because that's really the height of the show, to have someone who you respect, because that's the thing. A number of years ago, I was on a show with Stephen A. and Skip Bayless. And
both of them?
Yeah, both of them, on their show.
Yeah.
I was working at ESPN doing NFL. I would do Mike Greenberg after doing my NFL stuff, and then I would come on there because Stephen A. and I were friends. I didn't know Skip personally, and I'm going to be honest with you. Skip Bayless is not one of my favorite people.
I can imagine.
Okay. So I'm on there doing the show. I do the show and everything. And then all of a sudden, this is when the Tebow phenomenon was going on. Mm-hmm. And he was a huge Tim Tebow guy. This guy is this.
I remember it. Dude.
Okay.
Oh.
So I come on there on a Monday, and, we're trading barbs and everything. We go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And then I just level set it and was like, listen, if throwing the football is important in the NFL, Tim Tebow will never be a starting quarterback in the NFL.
Yep. So
he got defensive, and then he came back and said, well, that's why you didn't win a Super Bowl. Okay.
So what'd you say?
Which got nothing to do with nothing.
Agreed.
We went to commercial break.
So you didn't say nothing before commercial. He just said his...
No.
Okay. Good man.
I took my earpiece out, and I told him, I'll never be on your show again. Yeah. And if you ever say anything like that to me again, I'll punch you right in the face.
Good for you. That's why I like you. What do you say?
He couldn't say anything because I got up. I'm off the set. Then the producers came. Hey, Chris, no, it's not necessary. Then the people came from the back. Stephen A. was like, Chris, man, this is not. I was like, bro, I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm not doing nothing. I'll never be on another show. I won't be on this show ever again as long as he's on here.
Correct.
So then come 3 or 4 years later, he goes to Fox. Mm-hmm. I leave ESPN. The guy that was directing the show was hiring the people at Fox.
Okay.
So he's like, man, I know, man, y'all had a dust up. Do you have any problem with him? I said, I don't have no problem with him.
No.
I don't have no problem with him at all.
Me, I'm good.
No. Well, we talked to him. He doesn't have a problem with you. Why would he?
Yeah.
Why would he have a problem with me? Mm-hmm. So I had very little interaction with him when I went to Fox, but I knew that it's like playing in a card game that the deck is tricked up.
So you heard what Cris Carter had to say about Skip Bayless. What are my thoughts on this? And I want to take my time with this particular one. Based on what he said, it seems to me that Skip is someone that annoyed a lot of people in the business. That's the first thing. The other thing I've noticed is that some people are not fans of this embrace debate style of sports coverage that Skip Bayless and people like Stephen A. Smith popularized. Cris Carter isn't the only one. I've even heard Marcellus Wiley say that he's not a fan, or he was never a fan, that he likes to have he would say he's a conversationalist. He doesn't like to be hollering and screaming back and forth with the person across the desk, right? He believes that there's a more civilized way of covering sports. That's what Marcellus Wiley has said on many occasions. And it seems to me that a lot of people were not a fan of it. That's number one. Number two, I also get the sense that some of these people truly questioned whether or not Skip Bayless was sincere about the majority of his positions, because I guess some of them were wondering, is Skip only saying these things, number one, for shock value, and number two, for the sake of us going back and forth? So, give you an example. If Skip says something so ridiculous and outlandish, the other person sitting across the table listening to him will hear it and say, but this is absolute madness. And then you start hollering and fighting with one another, and then all of a sudden you get the friction, right? You get the friction, like they did with Tim Tebow. A lot of people didn't think that Tim Tebow was as good as Skip was proclaiming him. But if you go back and watch some of those old First Take shows, Skip, there was a former NFL coach. I forgot his name. I think it's Cris. I forgot his name. But he was on First Take. I just can't remember the coach's name. It's such an old segment, over 13 years ago. And this former NFL coach or assistant coach or something was basically saying why he doesn't believe Tim Tebow is great. And Skip Bayless on national TV and basically told the guy, and that's the reason why you're not still coaching in the NFL. And the moderator was like, Skip, that's a low blow. That's a low blow. Like, that is a low blow. So Skip also, and I think one of the reasons people don't like Skip, especially his contemporaries, former athletes and others, is because of this pattern of insulting people whenever they disagree with him on a particular position. He personalizes his attacks. He does. He did it with Cris Carter. Cris Carter explained. He did it with that former NFL coach who I can't remember his name right now. It was such a long time ago. I think he did it with Jalen Rose. He certainly did it with Shannon Sharpe. So Skip has a history of that. And I think a lot of people saw, even Doug Gottlieb at FS1 is not a fan of Skip because of his childish coverage of Russell Westbrook. He thought he was taking it too far. So Skip, although he has a reputation of, as the article in Front Office Sports alluded to yesterday, being a kingmaker, bringing in Stephen A. Smith and Shannon Sharpe and all of them, and then they took it to the next level with their work ethic, talent, and all of that. But there are a lot of people that just simply don't like Skip. And these are some of his contemporaries. Then you have a segment of people out there that don't like Skip because of his constant LeBron attacks. Here's what I understood about Skip. And sometimes people call me the Black Skip Bayless for whatever that's worth. But here's what I understood about Skip. The fundamental difference between Skip and I is this. Some of LeBron's antics, I'm not feeling them. Like, I ain't with it. I had LeBron in my top 5 for, I don't even know, man, for like 10 years in my top 5. But his antics are what kind of turned me off about him, right? But there's certain things that he does well and all of that stuff, and certain things that, like, you got to give it up. Like, Son is pretty good at X, Y, and Z. In the case of Skip, I believe Skip would actually troll LeBron. He would troll him in the sense that he would use any opportunity he could to say something negative about him, even when something wasn't there. And he would take any ridiculous position he could and act like, but I really mean this. I really mean this. When in reality, some of us were like, bro, you only saying that to antagonize LeBron and his supporters. To antagonize him. I'll give you an example of what I mean. Skip claimed X, Y, and Z about LeBron on a daily basis, but he talked about him religiously. Because LeBron was a cash cow for Skip. Period. Anything can be happening in the NBA and he will always focus in and zero in on LeBron. And to me, the critique can't be 100% negative all the time. Go back to First Take and go look at some of those stuff Skip used to call him. The Frozen One, the Chosen One turned into the Frozen One. He came up with all of that. Now, were there times where he was justifiably correct for criticizing LeBron? Absolutely. But at other times, it seemed excessive. And I think it's something that began to turn off some of his contemporaries. But to hear Cris Carter say this is just one story. This wouldn't even surprise me. Only God knows what Jalen Rose said to him when he made those comments about what Skip averaged in college. So Cris Carter basically put out a bombshell interview on the channel Fully Loaded. He published this show, yesterday, right? He published this show yesterday, and it was centered on some comments that were about Skip Bayless. The title of the show says, Cris Carter says why he would punch Skip Bayless in the effing face, right? It's about a 49-minute segment. His channel seems to be fairly new with 1,000 subs, and it's called Fully Loaded. So y'all go ahead and check that out, right? So we had actually produced another show that was more focused on what he had to say about Skip. It's going to depend on which order you're watching the shows today, but we produced another show earlier today, right? So as I was continuing to listen to the soundbite, to the segment, as he was talking about Skip, he then began to veer off in another direction, although it was kind of related to Skip. He started to talk about something that I was unaware of. And he was basically exposing how the Skip Baylesses of the world, the Stephen A. Smiths of the world, are pretty much engineered and pushed upon viewers by the way they're able to select topics, the way that they ensure that they come out on top whenever they're debating certain issues on the show. And to be honest with you, these are things I never knew, because I've never worked on TV, so I would never know this. But I never knew this. I never knew that they were always being propped up to always come out on top in these debates. And it wasn't because it wasn't that they were winning these debates because they were doing it on the merit or because they were smart. They were doing it based on they were put in a favorable position whenever they were debating across the desk with other people. And I was like, wow, this is pretty interesting. And to me, it made it seem like a lot of this is engineered, and a lot of the stuff that we see, it really began to make me question, well, how authentic are these things that we're watching on a daily basis on television? So for those of you who didn't hear what Cris Carter had to say about this, I want to play his comments for you now. I want you guys to listen to it carefully, and then want to come back and react to his comments. Take a listen to that there.
Number one thing you should know about Skip Bayless and some of the programming, the way that it was done at ESPN and at Fox, I'm going to say this, that it's a form of wrestling.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, you know who's going to win. You know who's going to win.
Yeah. Yeah, it's predetermined. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And a lot of the arguments and everything are either predetermined or assigned.
You're going to win this one.
And everything is slanted in Skip and Stephen A's favor. Yeah. They pick the subjects, and they pick what side they going to take.
Then you got to defend the other one. It's like showing up to court and picking out what you want to do for. Yeah, let me look at the odds first, then I'll pick my side.
And now I'm gonna say something about Stephen A. Stephen A. is an authentic dude. He is a journalist. He's a broadcaster. He's also an entertainer. And he's fair. And Stephen A. has a treasure trove of information about people that he would never let go on the air. It would make him more popular, but he'll never
do it.
He would never do it because he's got stories. He's got context. He's got relationships. He's got sources like that would carry you a lifetime in the business. Like he is legit. He is the real deal. But to me, it was always, Stephen A. was always carrying Skip.
Yeah, agreed.
And Stephen A.'s audience was accepting of Skip, or it just got them so fired up that they really got into the debate thing. The other thing when he went to Fox was he didn't know Shannon was going to be the commodity, and he had no clue that Shannon was going to have the type of following that he was going to have to bring to this.
Correct.
He underestimated that, and Fox tried to play cheap. They underplayed their hand, with him, realizing that because in debating, there's only two places you can go, either ESPN or Fox.
That's right.
So there's not a lot of places for sports broadcasters, and most sports broadcasters are not into debating. That is the style of the last 10 years, and has been very, very favorable to create these daytime shows to create content during the week. But to me, I never thought he was authentic. I never thought that I should take him serious because he covered the Cowboys and now he's trying to talk about the NBA, talk about LeBron.
Yeah, right.
I've seen these arguments and stuff that are, you'd have to be a lunatic to believe what you're saying.
Correct.
And they swear, oh man, he believes every argument. There's no way that he can believe that LeBron is not a clutch player.
Correct.
There is no way that he thought Tim Tebow was going to be one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL because he's a smart guy. He's not an idiot.
He can't be an idiot. I would agree
But
with that.
sometimes he acts like one.
For the production, for the
I just think he has made a business out of coming up with outlandish comments.
So you heard what Cris Carter had to say there. What are my thoughts on what he had to say? First of all, as I said earlier, I was unaware that this is how things work. Totally unaware. I guess in the independent space, it works a little bit differently. Now, if you have a show like ours that we operate, if you have a show that's just one personality, it's not a debate show. So you choose a topic and you choose your position on the topic, right? It's not like as if we're doing this show with Marcellus Wiley and we have a topic and then I'm like, okay, hold on, I'm going to talk about this, you talk about that. It's not like that, right? That's the first thing. The second thing, when you're in the independent space and, for example, you go on someone else's show, you don't get to tell people, okay, you have that position, I'm going to take this position. No, there's a topic, they throw it out at the table, right? And then everyone kind of give their opinion on it. And then out of that, organically, if one person says something, like if person A says something that person C doesn't agree with, then you may have a bit of a back and forth, but it's done organically. It's not premeditated, right? So to me, that's how it works in the independent space, and that's how I thought it always worked, right? Where I've been on shows and there's a particular topic, and I'll just chime in for a few minutes and say, okay, I'll say this and I'll say that, and then the other person may say this, and then one person may say, I disagree with you. I may say to the other person, I disagree with you, or whatever. And then to the people listening, I guess the entertainment factor comes in where they think, okay, well, this guy made a pretty good argument, or this girl made a pretty good argument, or I like how so-and-so got at Charles, or I disagree with so-and-so person and I disagree. I think that's how it kind of works, and that's how you kind of build the entertainment factor for people viewing a lot of these independent channels. Whereas on TV, it's a totally different thing. On TV, it's a lot more premeditated, right? It's a lot more premeditated, and to me, that's not organic. And I think I've heard Marcellus Wiley mention this before, where he said that you gotta disagree on topics, because if you don't disagree, then there's no entertainment factor. There's no entertainment factor, and it seems like this is a style of producing shows that television has embraced. And to me, I think that if two people have a genuine disagreement on a particular issue, that's entertaining. But I also believe that if two people share the same views on a particular issue, that can be interesting based on the points that those people make. Because it doesn't always have to be for an audience, man, did you hear how so-and-so person went at so-and-so person? Because then it becomes messy. It becomes messy. And it looks like every single morning we're looking for what to argue about and what to fight about versus, what are the most interesting things to talk about and what are the most interesting things I can say? Not, oh, what are you going to say? So let me hear what you're going to say. Okay, this is where you're thinking of going. Okay, let me think of something to holler back and forth with you. And I think that is the change that we're witnessing take place in sports media. this kind of debate and hollering and screaming back and forth with each other, I think is kind of dying down, because at times it crosses the line. And whenever it does cross the line, you get situations like you did with Shannon Sharpe and Skip Bayless, where it becomes too personal. And then now it's no longer about sports. No longer about sports. What Skip said about Shannon and the person, that has nothing to do with this. Talking about Shannon Sharpe's career and what he did or what he couldn't do has nothing to do with the point. That's the point that Cris Carter made. He's like, what does it have to do? What is the connection between me not winning a Super Bowl and me evaluating whether or not I think Tim Tebow is a good quarterback? These things are mutually exclusive. But you're gonna take a shot at me. You're gonna take a shot at me because you ran out of things to say, and you're still thinking in the back of your mind, it has to be messy. It has to be messy. We have to fight. We have to argue. We have to cuss at each other. And then you do something like that. So in that moment is great television, but you just insulted someone on your way to making great TV. So to me, man, it's very, very interesting. It's very, very interesting that, this is how it really works behind the scenes. And I'm very happy that Cris Carter was able to share that information because it was enlightening to people like me at the very least. So this is August 6th. And you guys know it's pretty much that time of the year where there isn't much to talk about. And if you're lucky to come up and find something interesting to talk about, you're a pretty lucky person. And it looks like we did today, right? Yesterday, depending on when you see this, but we saw this story early this morning. So what happened? I was going to the internet and I saw a story on fadeawayworld.net that was related to the Lakers announcing their coaching staff to surround JJ Redick in this upcoming season. Now, if you guys know, the Lakers have been making some moves or have made some moves that has left a lot of people scratching their head. All right. And now, it started off with them hiring JJ Redick, and there were a lot of people looking at them like, okay, they had the opportunity to get Dan Hurley, but they didn't get that because they didn't offer him enough money, allegedly. And then they went out there to get JJ Redick, a person who had no coaching experience whatsoever, anywhere, on any serious level. And they basically overlooked other candidates that would have been more suitable for this particular job, at least people that had some basic coaching experience, whether as an assistant coach or a head coach in the NBA. The Lakers decided that they weren't going to do any of that, that they wanted to get a new guy that was unproven, had no track record, and that person was going to be JJ Redick. And when they hired him, a lot of people began to speculate about, whether or not this was the Lakers' decision or if they were influenced by LeBron and his camp, because him and JJ Redick had a podcast and all of these different things. So nevertheless, they went out there, they got JJ Redick, and then after that they drafted Bronny James, I think with the 55th pick, if I remember properly. So once they drafted him, a lot of people were wondering, well, this guy has no experience at all, right? He has no experience, and he's coaching for one of the most well-known sports franchises in the world, in the Los Angeles Lakers. So we were like, okay, we know he has no experience. So now it looks like a lot of what we're going to expect from JJ Redick as a rookie head coach is going to come from the people that are going to be surrounding him as he, makes his entree into his first year as an NBA head coach. And this article basically broke down all of the different people that the Lakers are hiring as assistant head coaches to support JJ Redick. So this is the information that we want to get into here today. So let me get into what this article had to say here. It continues on. The Los Angeles Lakers have announced their coaching staff for the 2024-25 NBA season, reshaping the personnel around new head coach JJ Redick. Former NBA coaches Nate McMillan and Scotty Brooks headline a talented list of assistants, also including Bob Baer, Greg St. John, Lindsey Harding, Boy Levesky, with head video coordinator Michael Wexler. The article then continues on. The Lakers have done a good job in giving Redick the veteran support he'll need in his rookie year as a head coach on a roster with contending aspirations. Nate McMillan is an 18-year head coaching veteran who last coached the Atlanta Hawks before being dismissed in 2023. The former player Also served as an assistant coach on 2 gold medal winning Team USA rosters in 2008 and 2012, and is a very respected coach in the league. Scotty Brooks is a 12-year head coaching veteran, last being in charge of the Washington Wizards until 2021. He spent the last 3 seasons as an assistant coach on Chauncey Billups' staff in Portland, so he's already well equipped with how to help a former player who's now a rookie head coach. Outside the big 2 names, the Lakers have also added 17-year coach veteran Bob Baer, who spent the last 2 seasons on the Charlotte Hornets. Baer also has worked on the staff around the NBA, with the Lakers being his 9th team. Greg St. John returns to the franchise after previously serving as the head of player development from 2019 to 2021. He spent 2 seasons as an assistant with Jason Kidd on the Mavs before spending last season with Frank Vogel's Phoenix Suns. Lindsey Harding is the first woman to be named as an assistant coach for the Lakers, coming off a triumphant head coaching season in the G League, where she received Coach of the Year for her work with the Stockton Kings. The former WNBA player was an assistant and player development coach for the Sacramento Kings for 4 seasons prior to spending last season as a head coach of their G League officiate. And the last one, the last article said, and the last person is Bay is getting his first job as an assistant coach, spending the last 4 seasons as a player development coordinator for the Los Angeles Clippers. Michael Wexler will serve as head video coordinator, a role he held last season with the Minnesota Lynx during the 2023 WNBA season. He spent last season as a coaching associate on the Suns. So you heard what the article had to say there. What are my thoughts on all of this? First of all, I think it is smart on the Lakers' part and JJ Redick's part to go out there and get people that are smarter than him, or at least people that have more practical experience in the thing he's aspiring to do, right? JJ Redick may have the theory, he may have strategies in place, but these people that he's going out to get, especially those 2 assistant coaches, they've actually coached in the NBA for a number of years. So that was a very, very shrewd, smart move on his part to go out there and get these guys that have that level of experience. So that's the first thing. It seems like as if he's going to be surrounded with good counsel, at least experienced counsel, which is something that you absolutely 100% need, when you're going to be a rookie head coach. In terms of how all of this plays out, well, it's going to be an interesting one, right? It's going to be a very interesting one because we don't know what to expect from JJ Redick whatsoever. There are going to be many different things at play here, where a lot of us are wondering, is JJ Redick going to basically call it down the line and hold everyone accountable? If you're going to hold the 6th man on the team accountable, are you going to be able to hold the star player when he's not playing well or not doing his job? You're going to be able to hold him accountable. I think that if you have a scenario in which certain players are getting preferential treatment in terms of being held accountable, I think you may end up losing a locker room if they see that, okay, wait a minute, you only have the courage to say X, Y, and Z to me, but you don't have the courage to say that to some of the big dogs on the team. That may cause a divide in the locker room. I'm also going to be interested to see how the dynamic plays out with Bronny James, because JJ Redick, during Bronny's introductory press conference with the Lakers, he was very vocal, basically saying that Bronny James earned that spot. So I'm going to be interested to see if there comes a time during the season when JJ Redick decides, look, we're going to play this guy, and how will other players on the roster feel that are probably better or more experienced and the veterans, how are they going to feel? How is it going to be able to keep them engaged with what's going on when you're playing a rookie 55th pick over them and giving them potentially their minutes, giving it to him? So these are going to be interesting things we're going to have to wait and see. Also, I think I'm going to be very interested to see how JJ Redick handles turmoil for the first time, because it's not going to be a kumbaya session. If you look at the standings and the landscape in the Western Conference, the Lakers are not even in one of the 5 best teams going into this year. You have teams out there like the Minnesota Timberwolves, the Dallas Mavericks. You have the Denver Nuggets, and some other. You have the Grizzlies are going to be back with John Morant. You have other teams as well that are going to be. You have the Oklahoma City Thunder. You have these teams as well. So you're going to have some top tier teams in the Western Conference, and it's going to be interesting to see how JJ Redick manages the expectations from Lakerland. right? Because when things don't go well, you better believe he's going to be the one where they're going to be pointing all their ire towards. It's going to be towards him. And if he's going to be his usual combative self, like he was in his introductory conference, cursing at the lectern, I don't think that's going to blow over well with the Laker fans. And I think it's not going to work in his favor.